What's up, robots? So today I'm going to be doing a drone build. There's been a lot of debates on the wiki on how strong drone builds are. A lot of people say they're OP, a lot of people say that they're trash and you can't take them to higher levels. So we're on the highest level. We'll see if it's OP, if you can't bring it here and it's not viable, or if it's just mid and it's absolutely fine to build them. Small disclosure, I was up late playing VR games with a mate and drinking, so I'm not going to be very talkative and I'm not going to be playing very well. I ache and I'm not hungover, I'm just a bit dehydrated at the moment, but we'll see how the build goes. So early on, obviously, it's not going to be amazing. We do need 1 or 2 perks to get going, but honestly a lot of ability builds are like that at the moment. It's very few and far between now that any build just hits peak after 1 perk, so they've done a really good job balancing it. I'm gonna try not to let my biases about drone builds get involved too much in this video. They're fine. I don't think they're OP, I don't think they're not viable. I think they're fine. I think they're better built up as a backup for a build rather than a main core of the build. But they're absolutely fine at endgame. They do good damage and yeah, they're consistent. I'll take this. I'm going to take the credit card and we're going to go ruins. I'm going to try and go ruins and then into... Let's get rid of that guy. Ruins into the corrupted area there, which I can't remember the name of, and then into fields and then into Doom Garden. And if we can manage to do Doom Garden, that is the path that will net you the most upgrades, because there's 2 upgrade bonuses you can pick up doing that path. And then you've got a lot of corrupted areas as well that you go through for sheer amount of items. No, this build isn't weak, so you have to do this path to make it strong. This is just a path where you can see exactly how much output you can get for your build. And I don't really want to do the speed running path when I'm not speed running, because I'm going to be doing that path often enough anyway, and it's not the best way to showcase a build because it doesn't get a build to its full power. You end up like 3 levels under leveled by the end, and you have a lot less base upgrade points that you've picked up. So into ruins, not really any items that I can see off the bat that I want. Grab a plushie, upgrade the mine gun because it's our boss damage at the moment. We'll grab a candle, that's bonus fire damage or explosion damage. So at the moment we've got 1 additional bot, but it's decreased their damage by 15% and their health by 20%, which is fine. They won't be dying anyway for the most part, so health reduction is nothing. Damage is less than it used to be, so this perk is actually more viable than it used to be. Then again, now we're going down to 25% and a 35% reduction in health. Again, I think that should be fine. I don't foresee my bots dying that regularly, even with that change. Because as much as people say that your bots draw a lot of aggro, they don't. They draw minuscule amounts of aggro, and the aggro that they do pull doesn't mean you're safe from the damage because you can still walk into the damage. So this is the main point that why people say it's OP, is because it draws aggro. But the problem is, if a projectile's in the air, it can still damage you. Just because it's not aimed directly at you doesn't mean that it can't hurt you. So if I ever step back and try and go high up where my drones were, you could find that I run into a projectile that was aimed at them instead, that wouldn't have hit me if I didn't have drones. So I've lost 1 drone, but not being too hard pushed to upkeep them. And we've got no additional scrap gain at the moment either, which is something else that I think the people that say that drone builds die too quick and aren't sustainable late game, I don't think they're accounting for one of the two scrap gain perks, so either scrap pancakes or I can't remember what the crit one's called, but there's one that increases drops on crits, so depending on how our perks run we'll get one of those too. But yeah, it's actually easier to maintain them, and drones are stronger than they used to be, purely and solely because of scrap gain on kill. So you didn't used to get just scrap dropping on the floor every time you got a kill. You used to have to hit them with the scrap launcher in the most recent version of the game, prior 1.0. So you can see here, we're not taking too much damage, we're still clearing in a decent time. We've got scrap explosion, but we don't need that yet. I'll take drone Zerker. Increases their drone health, which will counteract one of the two health nerfs they've had. It'll draw more attention, so they'll actually be doing what people say they do prior to a perk. And it'll buff their damage by 30% when they do take damage. Now we're going to try and synergize that with the elemental drones, because then what will happen is elemental drones makes it so that they reflect damage, so things damaging them will then be taking damage as well. And we see here, even with them taking more aggro, none of them went down. One of them got close, but none of them went down. Okay, so there's the one of the additional perk upgrades we were talking about. We're going to take I'm going to take the additional health. The shield is good if I'll take the shield upgrade if I don't get elemental drones, but with elemental drones I want my drones to be taking damage. I don't want them to be immune, especially not for 6 seconds. So it very much depends on how our perks roll on if I'll be taking that or not. We've just got drum, which means if we get shock drones, then our drones would also be doing a little bit of AoE, which is good. There we go. Drones took next to no damage there. And they're hitting for about as much damage as I am, to be honest, at the moment. But obviously there's 4 of them, so it's some good rapid damage. Now, do I think this is OP? Like, again, trying to ignore my own bias. If we compare this to what the damage that other abilities would be doing at this point, so you've got rockets that be doing what, 200 odd damage, if not more, and that's even if we haven't specced into it. If we specced into it, you'd be doing like almost 1000 damage. 2 perks like multi rockets and stuff like that. It would be less consistent, so it'd be 1 or 2 mobs being spiked down rather than just consistently taking a bit of aggro. So it depends what you value. I think DPS wise, most of the DPS abilities match up to a similar amount. It's just different time scales for how much damage you get, or different amounts of enemies. As far as defensive abilities go, again, I don't rate how good the drones are. I know I'm trying to ignore my own bias, but realistically, if, as I said before, if something's shooting at your drone and not at you, you need to be reacting to where your drones are and where those bullets are flying towards your drones, which isn't as simple as it is when you don't have drones, because if you don't have drones, you know that every shot is going at where you are or where you were, so you just don't stand in the spot that you were when they shot at you in the first place. Now with drones, if a drone is flying a little bit ahead of me and at a height, and an enemy shoots at it, and I jump into the position where that drone was because I didn't know the drone was there, because it's quite difficult to keep track of them, then that bullet feels like it's predicted where I was going and hit me. Now if I had shield, or if I had iframes from Ranger, or if I had iframes from Recon, then I'd simply see some damage coming and I would be able to use my defensive option when I need it. Right, so drone zerk can now last for 6 seconds, and my drones shoot faster when they take damage. Cover them up. Regularly using scrap launcher to make sure that our cooldowns are nice and low. That room got completely annihilated, but it didn't seem to have anything strong in it either. So yeah, you can see each drone shot is doing about 28 damage, my gun's doing about 25 damage. Because I have 4 drones shooting, the fire rate between my gun and them is fairly similar, but my gun's actually probably still slightly out DPSing them, even though I haven't put any points into a gun build. Now something else that's cool about Engineer that a lot of people don't do, and it's not always possible to do depending on cooldowns, but you can cancel the animation for healing your drones with your scrap launcher. So if you heal your drones if you press to shoot your scrap launcher and then press to heal your drones, then you only do the animation for the scrap launcher, so you don't get the downtime, you don't lose DPS from shooting if you combine the two. But again, it doesn't always work out in those situations because your cooldowns might not meet up. We've already got drums, so I'm not going to bother taking hot dog. We'll take Sammy. I like Sammy. I was wrong about that level. It doesn't have additional corrupted, so I didn't get a lot of items. It's just a good XP farm. Still don't have all of the corrupted levels memorised on exactly which ones it was. I think I was mixing that up with the quarry corrupted level. Oh, you start on that side. Okay. Go. It's a bit of a slug getting through enemies with such a low damage weapon. That's why I tend to prefer, even on the ability classes like Recon and stuff, I still kind of prefer gun damage over picking ability builds, just because I enjoy the gunplay in this game, and not building for it can feel bad sometimes. We'll take a reroll here and reduce cooldown on drone summons. What the fuck shot me? That reduced cooldown isn't needed. I would have rather a different drone buff, but it's the one that we got and we're not burning 2 rerolls just on upgrades. It's very rare that I would advise ever burning rerolls and upgrades. It's much more important to burn it on perks, because you can make any of the 4 upgrade options you get, you can generally make that work for you. Even if it just ends up being additional healing or being a bit tankier. But you can't always make all 4 perks work in the build. And you want to try and get the perks that you want as soon as possible in a build, because the more upgrades you have, let's start that again. You want to try and take the strong upgrades that you want earlier, because the more perks that you have, the more upgrades go into the pool and it dilutes it. So you want to be able to grab the ones that you want sooner rather than later. Right, we'll see if we can get through Doom Garden in time. Should be able to with the drone build. We don't have the best weapons for it at the moment. Hopefully we get a drop here at the start, but normally you don't. No. Okay. So this might be a little bit difficult, but we'll see if the bots carry us. Because my damage isn't going to carry us through it very well. I didn't see those, so it ate a bunch of damage from the jumping beans. Drones aren't 100% accurate either, so you can't rely on the fact that they're always going to be landing their hits. They also get stuck behind walls and try and shoot through walls rather than moving into line of sight. So these are all things that you have to kind of play around and force them to move into the room, stuff like that. And we're not going to do this in time. We're not got high enough kill speed for the most part. But that one worked out fairly well. Just made it. Got S. Got the next free upgrade. So that's both the free upgrades on the run. Didn't get an item spawn shop there either. So again, none of these are great. We're probably just going to take we'll take the blaster damage. It's not a blaster build, but bonus blaster damage is always welcome because we have to use it to get scrap anyway. We'll stick with the weapon. May as well take a flower pot. No, actually, we'll take torpedo because it's got shock on it, and we've got the makings of shock items. And you'll see, even with scrap generating item, without scrap generating perks, we've been able to keep our bots alive for the most part. I think they've only gone down once so far since we've had all 4. I'm not even saying that this is the strongest drone build either, by the way. I think there's arguments for other drone options. This just happens to be the drone build that we've been offered, and as you can see, even without potentially min-maxing the build as much as I could, it's working fine. I'm gonna... Scrap pancakes is kind of what I want. It's a 16% all-around damage boost, which I believe affects drones, whereas that's 124, no, 25 bonus. Let me just see if it does affect drones. I've not tested this. So they're doing 36 damage. Oh, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. Now if I get some scrap, Yeah, it looks like it's affecting them. I did think it did, because it's a global damage boost. So yeah, it's 38 damage when I've got 6. Got 11, so there's now in the 40s. Okay, yeah. So we went with pancakes because we want the extra scrap generation. This is a very difficult room to keep the drones alive in. I'll bear that in mind now when you see them dying. Like, it doesn't really matter what you do. The drones, there's so much fire going on in there that, not actual fire damage, but there's so much enemy fire going on, and then AoEs that everything just going to get shredded. They're very difficult rooms. So yeah, we wanted the additional scrap. We wanted bonus damage, and pancakes is kind of the best bonus scrap generator and one of the best kind of all-round perks for any engineer build, to be honest. It is a solid perk. Yeah, our drones are doing pretty good work. I definitely wouldn't say these are useless. I can definitely feel the drones doing some work. Now that I've got Robozerker, they're definitely putting some aggro for me. I don't think it's game-breaking damage that they're doing with this build at very least. There might be other builds where they do more damage, but then those builds would probably be doing less defensive options, so if we had target protocol, then the drones would be doing a bit more damage, but it's a lesser of two evils kind of situation on that front. So this is the scrap generator. So now if one of our drones die, they drop 5 scrap, and when we hit with our scrap launcher, we get 5 additional scrap as well. So we're getting a lot of scrap now. So that will drop so much. So now the cooldown on our drones is going to be really low. Look at that, 1 scrap and it's gone down by like 6. So we're not going to be able to get target protocol because that's gone, well, it's unlikely we're going to get target protocol because that's just gone through the pool already. I don't think I've ever explained how the perk pool works, but there you go. Maybe I should have done that in my tips and tricks video. So the next thing that we're going to try and get is, as I said before, either elemental drones, or could even take the one that increases their fire rate by like 70% when I use healing, because now we've got so much cooldown. Oh, I didn't land, so I couldn't jump. Yeah, now that we've got so much cooldown, we'll be able to have quite a high uptime on that. But we'll see what options we get given. Oh, that was a bad railroad. So like, even if I'm not healing them, they take less than half damage a room. Now we've got more re-rolls. So, drone fire rate by 10%. I don't feel like I need the extra healing from scrap pancakes at the moment. I'm still not sold that I want my drones to be invincible, because at the moment I'm not having an issue keeping them alive, and I would rather get the damage bonus from them taking damage. If we can get Poppy, it'll be perfect, because then we can give our drones some crit chance. And 4 drones with 20% crit chance, when you've also got the French fries, which gives you more cooldown when they crit, is a really nice combo. But we don't need it. It'd just be beneficial. Against a lot of the bosses, for some reason, the scrap doesn't fall on the floor. You just auto pick it up against bosses now. So you don't even have to worry about risking going and picking it up. And you can see the drones aren't taking any damage against the boss. They're not pulling aggro at all, which part in part means they're not triggering the Roboquest bonus damage, but it also wasn't needed. Still doing consistently good damage. Not spikes, doesn't spike in damage, it's not a javelin level of damage, or javelin level of DPS, to be honest. See, if they're hitting like 10 shots a second, that's still less damage than a javelin can do at this point, because it would be critting for over 500 damage. Just to try and keep the damage in perspective. Spear, Turbo, Volatile, Unstable Ray. Fantastic shotgun. Gonna take Toaster, because that will give us more damage after we're gonna replace this before the next boss, hopefully. Don't have cells for that anymore. Yeah, we're fine. So because I've got Crab, it means my blaster is doing burn damage. Because my blaster is doing burn damage, anything that my blaster hits will be taking additional damage from all other sources, which includes my drones. Oh, one of my drones got instantly gibbed there. That's fine. Now, one issue that the drones do have is that once you lose one, it gets a lot harder to then stabilize, because you have to use your ability that would normally heal, then has to be used to resummon, and then you've got to keep all your drones alive until the cooldown is gone all the way back around, rather than just repeatedly having the cooldown for the heal. So if you do lose a drone, it can be a little bit harder to maintain. But I mean, if I'm hitting more than one target with my scrap launcher, which isn't unreasonable to assume that you can, I'm getting like 20 seconds cooldown off my passive, or off my ult. Yeah, we'll take some additional marking. I can't say no to that. A fantastic sonic crossbow. Sonic crossbow used to be one of my favourite weapons. They've nerfed it a little bit, but it still feels pretty nice to use. Drone dropped quite quickly there. So it's getting a little bit harder to maintain them in Haven, but not impossible. Quite a bit of damage there because I ran into some shots that were aimed at my drones. Like even someone like myself who's got 1,000 hours, oh, almost 1,300 hours in the game, and a lot of that time has been played on Engi, because Engi is my favourite character. Even then I can like lose track of where projectiles are going and if it's going to hit my drones, or like aimed at my drones, and if it will now hit me. Gear Buddies is an okay perk. I actually prefer Geared Buddies as an off perk, not for main drone builds, but it can be used. I actually want to take Scrap Snacks. Deploying it increases drone's fire rate by 70%. And now again, unfortunately, Scrap Snacks is actually a bit of a better of a mix bag rather than for pure drone builds, because some of the upgrades that it gives. But we'll see how 70% fire rate will work, because we can get that fairly consistently. And we'll replace the Uzis with Razor Launcher. So this is basically my old speedrunning setup that I've got now. These are the weapons that I used to use predominantly for speedrunning, because you have one of the best wave clears in the game and then one of the best single target DPS in the game. So it all works out very nicely. I can maintain Scrap Snacks like a beast. Oh, we're going that way. We've actually triggered my healing early there so that we could get Scrap Snacks, and that just obliterated the room. That's doing a lot of room clear very quickly. What kind of damage are we hitting? We're hitting 60 damage a shot quite rapidly. Yeah, that's pretty quick. Look at that go. So end game, like this, their damage goes hard. So here's the reason that it's a little bit more, why Scrap Snacks is a good item for a mixed build. Same with Scrap Pancakes. Scrap Pancakes is a mixed build. It's not a drone item solely, but it gives you the scrap generation and it gives you extra damage. And then everything else works towards your gun. So this whole build, like I've got Family Swarm and Drone Zerker, they're drones only. And then I've got 2 cross perks, so my guns aren't being completely neglected, but these things are also still generating my drone, like helping my drone. So it's still a drone build. Drones are still the main focus, but it's not ignoring my weapon. Now if you completely build and ignore your weapon, and if I also went like the drone, I can't remember, the one that marks them for drones to attack, and then the Geared Buddies, then that would be pure drone build. I'd have no extra scrap generation, and it probably would feel a lot more lackluster than this build does. Your drones would still be hitting fairly hard and you wouldn't have to do much, but it wouldn't be as interactive. So if you're losing builds, or if you're losing drones and you're not able to maintain it, you're not able to stay alive, like it probably would feel like a weaker build. So it does depend very much on the people that are saying drone builds are weak. It depends how you're building them. If you're doing 100% pure drone build, then I could maybe see why you think they're weak. But if you're doing a bit of a mixed bag like this one, which is still a drone build, like I wouldn't take Family Swarm or Drone Zerker if I was basing this on a weapon build. I would still take Scrap Pancake. I probably wouldn't take Scrap Snacks either if it was a weapon build. So this is definitely still more of a drone build than a weapon build. So this, while Scrap Snacks is active, increase both yours and your drone's movement speed by 12% and armor by 12%. So they don't really need more movement speed. The armor is pretty nice. I actually would rather take this. One, because it unlocks something in the base camp that I didn't realise I needed to unlock, and 2, 25% weapon fire rate is huge. We'll take a whistle, and then we'll jump on over to the last section. Trigger that so that drones will come in firing. Yeah, this is shredding. Like, there's definitely no way you can say this build is weak. I could understand why if someone's ran a build like this they could consider it OP. And it is strong. I'm not going to say it's weak. But the problem is the term OP gets thrown around a lot. But the thing is, how much damage is it doing in comparison to a javelin build? How much damage is it doing in comparison to a scrap launcher build? Bearing in mind I can build engineer. I haven't put out the video yet, unfortunately, because I accidentally deleted it. But I can do a build with engineer where it can get its scrap launcher to be hitting for, on paper, 20k to a single target. So sure, a drone hitting for 85 to 100 damage and shooting as quickly as they do is a lot of damage. It's good DPS, but the spike damage, like I can wipe out half a room with a scrap launcher build in one shot. You don't need DPS if everything dies in one shot. So it's strong, but is it OP? It's a difficult one. Because I don't think it makes the game, like, you have to have a full build for it to reach this point. I think if it was OP, my definition of OP is probably slightly different from other people's, but if it was OP, I would expect to reach this strength level by 2 perks. Because every build can do really high DPS and really high rune clear, or be really, really safe at endgame, at like the last few levels, when you've got all your perks, all your items, all your upgrades. Like, yeah, most builds will be doing this kind of damage if you synergized it properly. Now if you're new to the game and you've managed to accidentally synergize this and you've never managed to accidentally synergize any of the other builds, then I could see why you might think this is stronger than other classes. But the game is really well designed in a way where if you are smart with your perk choices, you can get very strong. If you just kind of blindly pick something, you can feel quite lackluster. And that's not to say that people who blindly pick, it's like their fault or they need to get better. It's one of those knowledge things. The game has a skill curve. It's not a massively high skill curve in like the grand scheme of things when it comes to gaming, but it has a skill curve of understanding what items are in the game and how you can utilize them, understanding the perks that your class has and how to use them. Once you have that base understanding, everything else is just kind of basic gunplay. So yeah, I'd like it if the community would stop and think a little bit before they say something's OP, because if you say something's OP and it gets the wrong attention, then you could lead to things which are actually fairly balanced being nerfed and things that are ridiculously broken being ignored. And it's never healthy for a game. Now I don't suspect that the devs would ever do that, because they do their own balancing tests. They know what's strong, they know what's weak. But yeah, we do need to be careful on just finding one synergy and then saying it's OP without going and testing what a standard synergy feels like. Like, we need to understand what a baseline is before we can say something's OP. Because what you've got to bear in mind, right? Now I know a lot of people don't like it when I use speedrunning as a balance because, oh, it's not ideal, but it's like, well, if I run this build through the speedrun path, how quickly will it do it compared to what I would consider is actually a very strong build? Because you need to be able to do boss clearing fast, you need to be able to do room clearing fast, you need the mobility. Like, that's a well balanced, strong OP build, is the ones that can finish the game consistently, fairly easy and very quickly. Like, that's OP. Is it OP if you can stand behind a wall, maybe get S rank, not have to shoot anything? Not really, it's a playstyle. It's like saying snipers are OP in Haven because you can stand outside of the aggro range of enemies and kill them on Ranger. Like, it's not OP, it's a playstyle, it's very slow and methodical. Doesn't mean it's OP. Now, I can't say unanimously that this build is weaker than what the build I would use for speedrunning on Engineer, because I've not ran this build through the speedrun path. I know currently it's gone slower than what the speedrun build would go, but I went a slower route, so I wouldn't say unanimously at the moment that this is weaker. I think it reaches its DPS curve too late for it to be considered OP. Because the other build that I would consider as Engi's strongest build, it reaches a power curve where it's annihilating rooms within 2 perks. And then every perk after that is just a bonus. Like, it just gets stronger. Where this kind of struggles a little bit until you've got 3 or 4 perks, which is how a standard well-made build should be. Like, things that need nerfing are things that reach their powerhouse before 3 perks. Because 3 perks is, in my opinion, a build. Because it's a roguelike and because there are RNG elements, you never consider 4 perks a build. The 4th one is just what is the filler. It's what you make do with in order to finish the game. Sometimes it works perfectly with it, sometimes it's just something that you've had to take. Don't really want any of those. Don't really want any of those, that's what we were looking for. 15% Engi weapon damage is quite high. So we'll see how much damage the drones are doing to a boss. We want to use the heal of the drones first, so then we get the scrap to cool it down. How much damage are they hitting? They're not hitting the boss at all. 74 damage a shot. And the main things drones do in the Iris fight is they actually clear out the things that Iris summons to go into rage mode, which is actually quite useful because it means you've got longer before the rage mode, but it does make the boss kill in itself slower. Now if I had the perk that made it lock on to what I aim at, then you could mitigate that issue. There we go. So that wasn't yeah, that was pretty quick, but you've got to bear in mind we've also got buffed up fire rate and damage on the laser saw, which is still one of the best single target weapons in the game. It did get nerfed, so it's no longer the highest, but even without hitting crits, its damage is very, very high. I completely messed up that laser phase. Luckily it's okay because we've done enough damage where it shouldn't be getting out of the laser phase. So, are drones viable at endgame? Yes, you can S rank everything with them. Do I think it's a viable playstyle to use just drones and not shoot anything? No, not really. Is it something you can do? Yeah, if you want. But there's no real reason to make a build that just has drone shooting, because you can just do more if you join in. Do I think the build reaches high damage fast enough to be OP? Not particularly. So I disagree with the people that say it's weak. I disagree with the people that say it's OP. I think it's a solid build that can do a lot of work. Let me know what you guys think below. Let me know if you think I should try it in a speed run and post that video just to see in comparison. Bearing in mind I completed it doing the faster route and with a little bit less experience in 1.0 than I do have now. I completed it in under 20 minutes doing a different engineer build. So I don't know, the path that I took is definitely longer and it was only 8 minutes slower, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, peace out.